ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session, and we shall continue on our journey of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse number 11 onwards. As we see in this chapter, verses 4 and 5, Lord Krishna gave the crux of the constitution of this universe, that the five gross elements and the life force, Para and Apara Shakti, they make that entire universe. The nature is made of the five gross elements, and the life comes from Parashakti, which is called Jeev. And then he gives examples one after another to explain to Arjun that how he is embedded or how he is pervading the entire universe in what form. And all these examples, if you look at them, they are the examples which are indicating that you don't look at what is visible, what is tangible, what is sensible, but you have to go beyond that. For example, he gives an example that सूर्य और चंद्रमा में मैं प्रभा हूं. नाउ सूर्य एंड चंद्रमा तो दिख रहे हैं, दे आर विजिबल, दे आर सेंसिबल, बट उनके पीछे जो प्रभा है दैट इज नॉट सेंसिबल, एंड दैट इज व्हाट ही इज इंडिकेटिंग. वेदों में ओंकार हूं. नाउ वेद, द रिटन वर्ड्स आर visible, tangible, but the onkar which is going through the entire, writing of Vedas is not sensible, not visible. It is beyond that. It is, you have to go backward to understand that. शब्दों में, आकाश में शब्द हूं. We can see आकाश, in fact we can feel it, but we cannot, sense the words inside it. But when you put your receiver on, you have a transistor or cell phone, and as soon as you put it on, the shabd start coming in your instrument, and because they are stored in this akash. Similarly, he gave many examples, and now we are coming to verse number 11. Here also he gives a similar example. हे भरत श्रेष्ठ, मैं बलवानों का आसक्ति और कामना से रहित सामर्थ्य हूं और सब भूतों में धर्म के अनुकूल अर्थात शास्त्र के अनुकूल काम हूं. Now he is indicating that he is the force behind. Now, for example, we can see a body of a person, we can see his arms, he may be very powerful, very strong bodily, but you cannot see the strength. The strength is inside. It's not visible, it's not tangible. It can be expressed only when you come into the arena and show it. So it is only an expression, you cannot see that force. Similarly, भूतों में धर्म के अनुकूल और शास्त्र के अनुकूल काम. Now, काम वासना is not visible and tangible. It's only embedded inside our system. So he says, even I am that. Now, why is he saying that? This is a very important point to look at it, because very often we associate काम वासना with negativity. And he says, I am there. धर्म के अनुकूल. Because it is important to run this universe. In order to make this universe run, you have to have the desire for calm. Because without that desire, you cannot reproduce your species. Whether it is elephant or dog or lion or human being, all of them have that desire to reproduce. Without that reproduction, the world will stop. And that is why he says that I am Kam Vasana according to the Shastras, according to the Dharma, in that sense, because that is very important to run this universe. Otherwise, the entire the process of universe will stop. So that is why he has said this, and he is indeed there. Then the verse number 12 is the very important verse. जो भी सत्व गुण से उत्पन्न होने वाले भाव हैं, रजोगुण से उत्पन्न होने वाले भाव हैं और तमोगुण से उत्पन्न होने वाले भाव हैं, उन सबको तू मुझ में ही होने वाले मान। ये मेरे से ही उत्पन्न होते हैं, परंतु वास्तव में मैं उनमें नहीं हूं और वो मेरे में नहीं है। नाउ दिस इज ए लैंग्वेज ऑफ पैराडॉक्स. We discussed this language of paradox once earlier. Certain things cannot be explained in normal language. The words are not enough. For example, he says that मैं सूक्ष्म से सूक्ष्म हूं और विशाल से विशाल हूं. Now, मेरे में कोई गुण नहीं है लेकिन मैं सब गुणों को देने वाला हूं. Now, this is a language of paradox. If you don't have any attribute, how can you give attributes to millions of substances which are available in this universe? How can you be the smallest of the small and also the biggest of the biggest, bigger of the biggest? Now, how is that possible? This is the language of paradox, which is extremely important to understand spirituality, because the language which we use is not good enough to explain the magnitude of the Almighty. The magnitude of the Almighty is so vast that it defies the language, and it also defies the logic. It also defies the rationality. Therefore, we have to go into that language. So precisely here now he's saying, actually on the one hand he says that I'm in all the सतोगुण, रजोगुण, तमोगुण, बट वो मेरे में नहीं है, मैं उनमें नहीं हूं. They are produced from me, but I'm not in there and they are not in me. Now it is very important to understand it fully. Now let us take an example of two circles. There's a bigger circle and there's a smaller circle. Now the smaller circle can be in the bigger circle, but bigger circle cannot be in the smaller circle. So the Almighty Hajj is like a bigger circle in which the nature is embedded. Nature is one of the qualities which he has said, Aparashakti, which is part of the Almighty. The Almighty gives birth to nature out of his Aparashakti. And then he also has Parashakti, which gives birth to life. So that smaller circle is like the nature. Nature is made of these three gunas, Satgun, Rajogun and Tamogun. These are the three attributes which actually formulate the nature, which give birth to the nature. And these are like that smaller circle, which is part of the bigger circle, but the bigger circle is not in that. It's not possible. Let's understand it in a different way also. मैं उसमें नहीं हूं. How come? Because he is the controller. He is called Mayadhis. He is the controller of Maya. And he is Mayatit. He is beyond that Maya. So he is not embedded in the nature, though nature takes birth from him, but he is not in the nature. And that is precisely the reason that so long as we have temptation to engage ourselves with the nature, we will not be able to attain the Almighty. Now, when we try to attain wealth, we are engaging in nature. When we are trying to attain fame, we are engaging in nature. When we try to construct a big house, we are engaging in nature. When we are trying to buy a car or when we are trying to travel, we are all the time engaging in nature. So the nature gives you a lot of temptations to engage. And As long as you remain engaged there, you cannot remain engaged with the Almighty. This is a contradiction. You cannot be Mayatit so long as you are engaged in Maya. And the nature, the Maya is constituted of these three forces, Satgun, Rajogun, Tamogun. Even Satgun is also part of Maya because Satgun leads us to some sort of, ego that मैं तो दानवीर हूँ. Like Karan, for example, greatest person who is called Danveer. Even he had that little ego. The people who are doing philanthropic activities, they say, I'm doing this, this, this. Now that becomes an ego for him. A people who are knowledgeable, who have a lot of, knowledge of particular subject, for example, a professor of physics. He's a great professor. But now that knowledge becomes his ego. If you tell him, Mr. So and so, he will be absolutely upset and angry. You have to say, Professor Mohan, how are you? You can't say Mr. Mohan. That is ego. A person who is sitting in a position of power, similarly, you have to address them so that their ego is satisfied. So the people who are even discharging very highly philanthropic, altruistic activities, even they are victim of ego. And that is why Krishna is saying here, even Satgun, even Rajogun, and of course Tamogun and Rajogun are there, but even Satgun will not lead you to the Almighty. You have to rise beyond that. So He is not there. So long as you are engaged in the world, you cannot attain the Almighty. You cannot have unity with the Almighty. So we have to disengage. This is also an indirect lesson here. He's telling us that don't search for me in the world. I'm not in the world. I'm not in the Maya. I'm not in the nature. That is what he's saying. Clear message here that don't search me there. If you are searching me there, you are doing a mistake. You have to go beyond that. And that is why this question of Gunatit comes into play. That you have to go beyond what is visible, what is sensible. I normally call it you have to look for insensible and unintelligible because whatever comes within the definition of sensibility and intelligibility, that is all this universe, all this Maya, all this world. And there you cannot find the Almighty. You have to go to the cause of that, how this came into being. For example, we can go to the root of a tree. We know the tree is existing. We can find the root of the tree is the one which is sustaining this tree. Then you go beyond that. You can say the seed is the cause of the tree. Now, how did the seed come into play? Then we start debating whether the tree came into being first or seed came into being first. Because without seed, the tree cannot come. And as we can see, without tree, the seed cannot come. Now, that is where we have to transcend our rationality, our intellectual power, our logic. Because in this, to understand this universe, the logic fails. The logic cannot answer those questions. And that is what Krishna is saying here, that मैं संसार में नहीं हूँ. You have to look for me beyond this. So this is very important here to understand. This is actually one of the fundamental truths which we must realize if we are looking for a spiritual path. That so long as we are remaining engaged in this world, engaging means not to discard or ignore your duties. That is not the meaning of engagement. You do your duties, whatever required, but don't get attached to them. That is what has been explained before. So that attachment should not be there, but you should have all the devotion to the duties which you are required to do, but without attachment and without the feeling that I am the doer. These two things should get away. So this is what here he wants it to explain that you have to rise beyond these three important, attributes of nature, because so long as you are there, you are in this world, you are not with me. Then I think he explains it further down very much more clearly in verse number 30. गुणों के कार्य रूप सात्विक, राजस और तामस, इन तीनों प्रकार के भावों से यह सारा संसार मोहित हो रहा है. We are completely, spellbound, completely under the influence of this world because of these three modes of nature, the सात्विक, राजसिक एंड तामसिक. इसलिए इन तीनों गुणों से परे मुझ अविनाशी को नहीं जानता. Now here the word he has used are very important. The Sanskrit word here is basically like this, verse number 13. Par avyayam, mamepya par avyayam. That you have to go, avyayam means the thing which is beyond all the, visible, tangible attractions of this world. So unmen, don't remain enchanted by this world. So it's very clear message that you have to leave this world, you have to detach from this world. Not leaving does not mean that you have to go to the jungle or in mountains. No, living in the mind. You can remain entirely in the middle of all activities, but with your mind you should be attached to the Almighty. That is the lesson is saying, that पूरा संसार मोहित हो रहा है. He himself is saying, the God himself is saying that पूरा संसार मोहित हो रहा है. This is the truth. We are all enchanted. We are all under the influence of this world. And if you want to look for him, then you have to transcend that world and look for him beyond. So these two verses, 12 and 13, these are absolutely fantastic. And then verse number 14, क्योंकि यह अलौकिक, अति अद्भुत, त्रिगुणमयी मेरी माया बड़ी दुष्कर है. बड़ी दुष्कर है. त्रिगुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया. दुरत्यया मीन्स बहुत मुश्किल है. परंतु जो पुरुष केवल मुझको निरंतर भजते हैं, वे इस माया का उल्लंघन कर जाते हैं और संसार से तर जाते हैं. Now this is what we call the crux of spiritual life. Ultimately in chapter 11 also, chapter 18 also, he will tell the same thing to Lord Krishna, that you forget about all this. You surrender to me and I'll take care of you. So if we surrender everything to the Almighty, then only we can transcend this world. Now, if we try to step by step cross the tamogun, then reach the rajogun, and then try to transcend into the sattvagun, that is not going to work properly. It's not a step by step process. And moreover, every human being will have these three qualities, though the degree may differ, the magnitude may differ. Some people will have less of Satgun, some people have more of Satgun, some people have more of Tamogun, less of Tamogun. All that degrees and quantities will differ. But ultimately, each one of us has that. And we cannot transcend it through this worldly method कि हम इसको छोड़ दें, ये करें, इसको छोड़ के ये करें, ये करें, ये करें. हम अच्छी कार्य करते रहें. हम we engage in philanthropic activities and we do this. That will lead up to some point. It is a right direction, I agree, but it will not lead us to the Almighty. To reach to the Almighty, we have to completely surrender to Him and say, okay, I'm under your guidance and control, you decide what should I do, what is good for me to do, and then we do that. That is possible only when you think all the time about him. Then whatever work you do, whatever activity you do, he will be your guide. That is possible only when you leave that, what you call doer. You are not the doer. You completely abandon the doership. Once you abandon the doership and surrender to him, then he will start guiding you. It's like a small child. He doesn't do anything. He just cries whenever he has any problem, whether he's hungry or whether he's thirsty or whether, he's got hurt or, something else he wants. He just cries. It's for the mother to decide how to handle it. So mother decides, deciphers what is the problem. Maybe he's bleeding somewhere, he got hurt, or maybe he's hungry, maybe he's thirsty, maybe something else is needed. So it is for the Almighty to decipher what He wants to do with us. Once we surrender to Him, that's what happens. I think this is the approach. If we can learn this approach today, we will be in His domain all the time. Every activity we do, we simply firmly believe in our mind that I am doing it as per the guidance given by the Almighty. I am not the doer. He is telling me to do. I am a small little cog in the entire process of this universe, and I do this because He is telling me to do this. And then don't expect any results out of it. Don't have any expectations. Nothing. I think that state is not easy to achieve, but gradually it is possible to achieve. It is not impossible, I can assure you on that. It is possible to achieve. It will take time, but slowly leave this this ego, that I am the doer. That ego has to go away, and then He will take care of every one of us. Now He says, "Ye ati duskar hai ye maya." Why is saying ati duskar hai? Because if we try to overcome this maya, we will not be able to do it. That is what He wants to tell here. It is so hard. Even God is telling us that it is very hard to do. So how can we overcome it? So we say, I surrender to you, kindly take me. तभी तो कहते हैं ना, वो भवसागर पाव करने के लिए आप परमात्मा को सरेंडर कर दो, he will take care of. पुराने लोग कहते थे, आप तो परमात्मा को छोड़ दो, वो अपने आप आपको भवसागर का पार कराएगा. That used to be the language. So this is what here it is. He himself is saying that Triguna Maya is so difficult to overcome. So how can we overcome it? It's not possible for us. We are all the time engaged into that. So in order to overcome that, the simple route is that surrender to the Almighty. We all believe that somebody has created this universe. We all believe in that. It cannot come on its own. And I cannot be born on my own. My parents gave me birth, and their parents gave birth to them and their parents. And if we keep continuing, it's a infinite process in the back. So finally, where do we reach? We reach that there is a force, one single force, which has given birth to all the species of life, and which has given all these attributes that you will reproduce your species later on. That काम की इच्छा which we were discussing earlier, that you will reproduce yourself. So that attribute, along with the birth, was given at initial stage by some force, and that force is the force of the Almighty. This is called Brahma in our language. That he was the what you call Prajapati. He's called Prajapati also, another word. Prajapati means that he gave birth to this world. And that is why we call it Brahma ka din and Yug. That is, Yug is a day of Brahma. And the night of Brahma, when the whole universe is dissolved back and then again comes back. So all this process has been done in a very systematic way. These words, language in Sanskrit is based on a very scientific and totally what you call uh, truthful statements. So what we should do here, that we should understand that this Maya is very difficult to overcome. With our efforts, with our capabilities, we will not be able to overcome it. Therefore, we surrender to the Almighty. He will take care of us like the mother takes care of a child. He will take care of us. After all, we are His children. What is the wrong in surrendering to Him? We are all His children, isn't it? He gave us birth, He gave us this body, He gave us the intellectual power, He gave us whatever we have with us today. So there is no harm in surrendering to Him as His children. And once we accept that reality, the ego will disappear and He will take care of us, and we will feel a very different. I can tell you, you will have a very different satisfaction and joy in your life once you attain that feeling. Not even if you don't attain it fully, if you are on that path, that slowly you are surrendering to Him, there's a different joy that will come, uh, in your life. So let us accept that Satgun, Rajgun, and Tamogun, they are running this world. And as long as we are engaged in these activities, the Sat basically means that you are doing philanthropic activities, you are helping others, you are acquiring good knowledge, you are enlightened person, that is Sat. Rajogun means that you are doing things for results, like a businessman is doing activity to earn profits, a politician is fighting election to acquire a position somewhere. So you are doing things which are giving you certain, rewards. So that is the reward based approach. And tamogun is basically a person who doesn't know what he's doing, and he's also very lazy. He has a false ego that without even anything knowing, he feels that he knows everything else. He knows everything. So this kind of approach is followed by Tamsi, that he doesn't know what he's doing. He's totally in dark, but still he believes that he's the, most what you call wise person in the world. And then he also becomes very lazy. Whatever you tell him, he just relaxes and doesn't want to do. And Tamogun is very active person. Yes, sorry, Rajogun is very active person, like a politician or like a businessman, all the time working hard, but working for reward. That is the Rajogun. That's why the word Raja comes from Raj. And Raja is, the person who is working very hard. And Rajwada, in Rajasthan we call it Rajwada, the people there who used to work very, very hard. And they want reward for that hard work, which is nothing wrong, but that is how it is. And then Satogun is the one which is beyond that, that you are doing things, for others. But all these things are not leading us to the Almighty. We have to cross those all three, and if you want to attain the Almighty. And He Himself has said it very clearly that the whole world is enchanted by these three qualities of the nature, and they are totally engaged. And then He also says that it is not easy to overcome the nature, and therefore the best way is to surrender to Him. So I think these verses 12, 13, and 14, they give us a fundamental truth in life, that by our efforts, we will not be able to overcome the temptations of nature, the temptations of this world. That will be possible only through surrender. That is the wisdom. If we surrender to the Almighty, automatically we will overcome all these three, and we will, like for example, let me give another example. When you walk through the streets, then you have to walk through the way that is made. You cannot overcome the buildings. You have to uh, go through this way, that way, and keep walking in those lanes and by lanes to reach your destination. And you cannot, you know, The buildings will be on your side, the roads will be on one side, the people will be there. All that you have to face. There's no way. But if you try to overcome all that, you just take a plane and fly. So you don't have to go through lane and by-lanes, and you will not remain engaged into those lanes and by-lanes and those, what you call janjal, labyrinth of, the sort of, mm, you know, I don't know what is the word in English, but you remain completely lost into lanes and by-lanes of that city. But if you take a plane, you completely overcome and reach. You cross those lanes and by-lanes without any hurdle at all. So we should take the plane straight away, and the plane is given by the Almighty. If we surrender to Him, we take the plane and we overcome all this Maya and its janjal, and we will, reach on the other side uh, to unite with Him. So this is how we should look at these three verses, 12, 13, and 14. Then 15. माया के द्वारा जिनका ज्ञान हरा जा चुका है, ऐसे आसुरी स्वभाव धारण किए हुए मनुष्यों में नीच दूषित कर्म वाले मूढ़ लोग मुझको नहीं बसते. Now he has used it very tough language here. That if you don't go here, you know, duskritino, duskritino muda. That is the word he has used. Duskritino muda, naradhama. The kind, normally Lord Krishna doesn't use this kind of words. His language is very sophisticated and very positive. But here he is using these words. He's telling that those people who do not surrender to me, who do not give attention to me and remain engaged in the world, they are under the Maya ke dwara gyan har liya gaya. I mean, they are under the influence of Maya. And therefore their knowledge is not enough. That knowledge which, the wisdom which they have is not good enough. It will not enable them to overcome this world. फिर ऐसे लोगों को he has used the word naradhama. Now naradhama means the people who are going downwards, who are not rising upwards. अधम में जा रहे हैं, जो लोग नीचे गिरते चले जा रहे हैं. That is the kind of, if we remain engaged in this world, and if we remain tempted by one or the other thing all the time, then we are going downwards. That is what he's saying. We are not going upwards. If you want to go upward, then you have to take the plane, and that plane is available only with the Almighty. Lord Krishna can provide you that plane. Whatever God you believe in, He can provide you that plane. So this is what it is. I think Maya, this whole Maya is like in the dream world in the night. We remain engaged completely. Our wisdom is completely lost. We don't even realize that this is a dream that time. Do we? We don't. Because the Maya which has been created, the illusion which has been created in our dream, has completely covered our wisdom, completely destroyed our wisdom that time. And when you wake up, then you realize, oh, what a foolish thing that was. And you don't even realize that time. This is what happens now here. If we remain engaged into this world, then we will not, be able to overcome this world of Maya. Will not be able to overcome, never. You have to abandon this, surrender to the Almighty. He will take care of you. So do your activities as you want to do, but do under His guidance, do under His surrender. I think this is the best way to do it. So let us resolve today one thing, that we surrender to the Almighty in two ways. One is that we continue to do our daily activities which we are required to do, our duties to the family, our duties to the world, our duties to the colleagues, our duties in the office, we do. But without attachment and without the ego of doership. That I am the doer. No, that feeling should not be there. I am just being told to do it. I have been sent into this world to do this. This is the purpose of my coming into this world. And I have been, you know, sent with those qualities which are required to perform these duties. These qualities also come from the Almighty only. He gives us those, intellectual power or physical power or thinking power, whatever we have, they have been given by Him so that we can discharge those functions. So we have to just abandon two things: attachment to the world and the ego of doership. Then we can overcome all that. Then we will not be in this category of Naradham, eh? And we will not be under the influence of Maya. Then Maya will be taken away from us. So we'll take one more verse today, 16. हे भरत वंशियों में श्रेष्ठ अर्जुन, उत्तम कर्म करने वाले अर्थार्थी, आर्थ, जिज्ञासु और ज्ञानी, ये चार प्रकार के भक्त जन मुझको भक्त बसते हैं. Now, भजने वालों में भी he has made clarifications here. Those who are surrendering to God, even there are 4 different categories. Now, this is very interesting. We have to surrender without any selfish interest. That is why he is giving this classification here. Now, who is Artharthi? Artharthi is the person who is looking for worldly pleasures. So you surrender to the God thinking that God will give me pleasures, then this is not surrender. You are not looking for pleasures in the world. People परमात्मा की प्रार्थना करते हैं, मंदिर में जाते हैं, वो कहते हैं अरे मेरे को बेटा चाहिए, मेरे बेटे की नौकरी लगनी चाहिए, मेरी पत्नी की बीमारियां हैं वो खत्म हो जाएं. तो we go with all these desires into the temple of the Almighty. Even in our mind we keep doing that. So that is one quality, that is Artharthi, the person who is looking for the worldly pleasures. That is one quality of the people who are praying to the Almighty. The second is Arth. Arth is the one who is, you get into trouble. For example, you get into some court case, or you have committed, some crime, and then you are about to be punished, or your health is not in good shape. So you want, the Almighty to overcome those troubles. So हम कहते हैं ना, हमने पंडित जी पाठ करवा दो हमारे, कोई ये नक्षत्र खराब हैं, हमारी शनि की दशा आ गई और शुक्र की दशा आ गई. तो that is the quality of Arth. Arth means the person who is doing prayer of the Almighty with the purpose of overcoming certain troubles into which he has got into the life. So if you get into some troubles and you want to overcome them, and then you pray to the Almighty, then you go to the temple, and then you go to a Swamini, and then you do this and do that, that is the quality of Arth. That is the kind of person. He says that the second quality, second type of people who are praying to me. Third is Jigyasu. Jigyasu is the one who just wants to know what is God. He doesn't understand what is God. But some people even believe there's no God at all. But he just wants to understand. That comes out of his curiosity. So that is the third variety of person who is praying to the God just to know out of curiosity. And Jnani. The fourth variety of a bhakt is the person who knows the things. Who knows the things that if you want to overcome this world, you have to surrender to the Almighty. As so long as you remain engaged with the material world, you will not attain the unity with Almighty. Now that is the Jnani Bhakt. So in चारों में से 4 प्रकार के लोग उसको बसते हैं, लेकिन the person who is Jnani, the person who has acquired the truthful knowledge, if that person surrenders to the Almighty, that is the real surrender. Others are not the real surrender. Others are basically doing for their selfishness. They want something from the Almighty. They want to get pleasures in the world, or they want to overcome their troubles in the world, or they just do it out of curiosity. So this is what he has explained here. that there are four variety of devotees who pray for me. The first is the one who look for worldly pleasures. The second is the one who wants to overcome the troubles which they are facing in their life. The third variety of the person is the one they do out of curiosity because they are not having enough knowledge about things, so they just want to do it out of curiosity. And the fourth one is the one who knows the reality of this existence, who knows that without surrendering to the Almighty, he cannot overcome the temptations of this world. He cannot overcome the Maya. He cannot overcome the power of Maya, and he cannot attain liberation, moksha. So that is the fourth variety of the devotee of the Almighty. So I think he has very beautifully summarized what we should do in life in these verses till 16. That is why he said, इन्होंने कहा कि मैं ऐसा ज्ञान आपको दूंगा जिसके बाद आपको कुछ जानने को शेष नहीं रह जाएगा. That is what he said in the very first verse. So I think this is the knowledge which he has given so far. And after knowing this, there is nothing more that we need to know. So I think I will end here today. If you have questions, I'll try to answer those. Thank you.